Hey guys, Towers here. Welcome back to DMZ. I've just booted up the game for the first time today. I haven't played since last night, so roughly 24 hours. What I'm going to do right now is go into a warm-up session cold. I'm going to go into the firing range. One thing about the firing range, if you only have DMZ, as I do, if you don't have the multiplayer, if you haven't spent any money on any of the game modes, you can only access the firing range if you have an insured slot open. Otherwise, you're SOL. If all 3 of your insured slots are burned down, you cannot get into the firing range. And so the only way to warm up in that scenario would be to load into a game. So it's very important that the first time you boot up the game, unless you're planning on meeting friends at a specific time, the very first thing you need to do is get into the firing range while you have a couple insured slots open to be able to get a warm-up in. And if you just a couple notes about the firing range, how to use it. If you have the same exact weapon in every slot, or in 2 slots that are next to each other, and that is left to right, you're not going to be able to weapon switch. So if I go into firing range here and I have 2 of these identical hemlocks in slot 1 and 2 for contraband, I actually cannot. I'm tapping my weapon switch button and I cannot weapon switch at all. So I can't cancel my reload, I can't switch to a secondary. So you don't want that in your warm-up session. You want to be able to practice as many skills as possible. So even if it's the same weapon but with 1 attachment difference, it will, like this one doesn't have a suppressor, this one does. This will work. I'll be able to switch weapons. So this one has a suppressor. This is the exact same build but without a suppressor, with a different muzzle device on there. Or actually with no muzzle device, I think, maybe. But I can weapon switch now. So if you want to practice with 1 gun, and you want to minimize time by eliminating a reload, you can do that as long as you have just a slightly different as long as you have a 1 attachment difference, you can do that. You can switch weapons, just gain more functionality that way. So when I come into the firing range, I bring in my intended primary weapon and a secondary weapon. Usually it's going to be, for me, some type of long rifle, an AR, and an SMG of some variety. And I've started to practice with just naked SMGs, as I'll to avoid the hand glitch. That is to say, to avoid the game eating your gun in the primary slot here that I have highlighted. I don't actually load anything into that primary slot anymore when I load into a raid. I only will take in 1 weapon if I don't have a backpack, and I'll put that in the secondary slot. And if I have a backpack, I'll put something in the backpack and in the secondary slot, and never into that primary slot, so I'll never have to deal with the hand glitch. But I've started practicing with ground loot tier weapons, 0 attachment SMGs. That's because I'll only bring in one weapon, and that weapon's going to be my primary weapon. I want a long to medium range weapon for that. A lot of guys will bring in sniper rifles as their primary weapon, and this is the same kind of idea, but since I'm on controller, I want aim assist to be working for me, and you're not going to get any aim assist with a marksman or a sniper rifle, but you will get aim assist with all these other types. Um, and if you didn't know, you actually do get the only time a mouse and keyboard player will get aim assist is with a melee weapon, and you'll get a kind of like lunging effect that'll happen on all inputs, but you will get some kind of aim assist with a melee weapon on mouse and key setup. But going back to our cold warm-up, I only have one bundle in the game. It's a 15-minute cooldown for the Hemlock. It's called the Crater Maker. Um, I purchased that with COD points that I earned from just playing the game normally when the game was still being updated, when it had seasonal updates. It was a very inexpensive um, bundle. It came with a pistol and a Hemlock, and actually started using pistol first, and just discovered that it also came with the Hemlock, and that was kind of a big game changer for me, especially running a lot of solos early on. But I'll bring in this 15-minute cooldown weapon as a regain weapon if I'm going in solo or with a team with the intention of gearing up on cash and contraband weapons, or restocking my insured slots, reducing the cooldown timers on those by running through Koche Complex. It's my preferred method to regain. So I'll actually take in this weapon, and only this weapon, and I'll actually drop it at some point during the raid for a third contraband weapon. I'll fill up my other two slots with some kind of ground loot contraband of choice, and then eventually when I find some kind of AR or LMG, I'll replace that. I'll throw down my 15-minute cooldown weapon, and you'll burn an insured slot that way, but if you have some kind of cooldown bundle, you'll get it back quickly. Usually you have that slot back open within the course of playing one raid, and again, since it's a 15-minute cooldown, you can use your highest cooldown slot, your third slot, the one that takes the most time. You can confidently put a 15-minute bundle on that slot and not worry about it, and that's actually a really good use of your second and third insured slots, is to use a 15-minute cooldown bundle, whether you're regaining or not, but especially on a regain. But we're going to hop into firing range here and get a quick warm-up. And this is the setup I'm using for the Hemlock. I am still working towards camos. I don't have any other game modes, so all the camos I've earned in the game have come through DMZ, and it's a lot harder to do it that way, but I think it's a lot more satisfying. There's a camo to unlock for the Hemlock if you get something like 50 kills with a suppressor attached to the weapon. That's why I'm running this particular setup, but this is kind of a meta Hemlock build. Hemlock's not really meta anymore after its many nerfs, but it still does a high amount of damage per round to tier 2 and 3 bots, so it may be worth it to take it just for that reason alone. You do want to be minimizing the time that you're fighting bots, and you always want to have the goal in mind of killing as few bots as possible, because the more bots you kill, the more reinforcements will come. It'll just be this endless cycle. You'll get caught in one POI. You can get collapsed on by teams that way. So the best way to defeat bots is actually just to ignore them, to run around them, to only throwing knife them or headshot them if they're directly in the path that you're wanting to run in. If they're surrounding an objective or a vehicle you want to take, something like that. But even during you know, that's the case when you're just idling across the map and when you're in a team fight as well. Um, the only time you should be killing bots in a team fight is if they're shooting you in the back, or if you have a way to kill them without giving away your position. If you don't, if bots are about to give away your position, you can kill them in that instance. Um, but I'm going to load into firing range here with a Hemlock and a Lockman sub, and I'm going to just quickly turn down my audio. And before I start shooting these target dummies, um, I want to get a sense of the space that I'm in and kind of get my, I'll warm up shooting later, but I want to warm up my movement first. And so first I'll start kind of just moving around the length of the firing range, um, getting a tack sprint in, trying to do a perfect 180. The reason I'm doing this particular skill is oftentimes you'll be moving across the map and a threat will appear directly behind you. Um, you'll get shot in the back. You have to be able to turn around on a dime and be perfectly centered on whatever that threat is, whether it be a bot or an enemy player. And the other instance of needing to be able to do this is if you're retreating or if you're repositioning, you need to be able to perfectly 180 as you're continuing to move forward to check what's going on behind you and continue to move. So you're moving, you're checking, and then you're moving again. You're moving, you're checking, and then you're moving again. And that's so if as you're repositioning, if somebody is right up behind you, you can start dealing with that threat instead of first getting shot in the back and then having to react and putting damage back onto him. So and then the third reason that you're going to be wanting to practice this skill is just to get a sense, to get a better mastery of your sensitivity that you're playing on. Most of your threats that you're dealing with and your highest probability of winning gunfights are going to be on the same plane as you. You have a higher probability of winning those gunfights rather than taking gunfights where you're on a lower axis than your threat is or on a higher axis than your threat is. Your eyes and your brain are oriented in a kind of widescreen format, and it's easier to track enemies on that plane rather than tracking people as they're moving, this way, for example, above you or below you. And there is another skill that is part of my warm-up routine that I'll show you in just a moment that is geared towards that. And if you want a marker of your progress, you can actually shoot the wall each time you complete that 180, and you can use your ammo counter in your magazine to kind of track your progress, give you an end goal. So with the hemlock, I can get 45 reps in one magazine. Got 45 rounds in the mag. You can also kind of check your progress, check your accuracy. And I'm turning away from the target dummies because I have aim assist turned on. So I don't want you can see it kind of lag and skip there as my aim assist is engaging and disengaging. And I don't want that to affect my rotation here. Alright, so once that drill is completed, I can continue with it if I feel that I'm not really quite ready, but after a couple perfect turns, especially towards the end, I feel like I've completed that drill, and now I'll actually start practicing tracking on a different axis, on a different plane. So I'll actually ADS and I'll trace this break in the ceiling here. All the way around as perfectly and as quickly as I can. And then once that rep is complete, I'll go the other way. And that's a full cycle, going up into the vertical, and then I'll go down and do the same thing. And then back across the other direction. dead slide. That's why we're practicing. Another dead slide. Ooh, another dead slide. So I'm doing the same thing as my tack sprint drill from the beginning, but I'm just incorporating a slide and a slide cancel at the end. So I'm not quite ready to shoot yet. I want to practice some more tracking. So I'll actually keep my crosshair centered on this first target dummy at 10 meters, and I'll strafe laterally across and back the length of the firing range. I'll start out slow. Build up speed as I go. And here I'm trying to just keep constant pressure on the view stick, keep my crosshair perfectly centered. Okay. Alright, so now I'm ready to start shooting. So this first bay here is more open than these other two bays. And I'll start out by going in progression from closest to furthest. and I'll get a few reps in that way, and then I'll start going backwards. I'll go from furthest into closest. Making sure I have my 3 plates on. Practice some different aiming techniques too. The first one that I'll use is just drawing a small tight circle to try to stay in one position as much as I can while engaging that rotational aim assist. And then the second one is I'll fully strafe left and right as much as possible while staying within my firing position. So that's that first technique, that just the small circles. Closer the target that you're shooting at is, the more forgiving the aim assist is, so I don't have to do those super tight circles on this first guy. I have a little bit more leniency to move as much as possible. That's going to make me harder to hit on these first 2 guys here, rather than staying kind of in one spot. But the third guy at 30 meters is going to be harder to hit as I'm moving fully left and right. And I'm going to have an easier time hitting him if I'm doing that kind of power circle there. So those back 2 guys, I'm doing that power circle, and that front guy, I'm doing a full distance strafe. So here I'm doing this thing, on this third guy, and on this close guy I'm going fully left and right like that. You can also get away with a full distance strafe on that second guy at 20 meters. You still have some forgiveness there, but here it's going to be a lot more work to get a full distance strafe in. Sometimes you'll need to do that if you're taking in a lot of damage. Let's say all 3 of these guys are up and shooting at you, and for whatever reason you need to get this back guy. In that instance, you would have to do a full strafe, to a position of cover on the far left or right side, rather than just standing kind of in one spot and being more accurate on that third guy, but leaving yourself open to taking in more damage being in that one spot. And I'll also practice doing a jump peek around a corner. And I found that since I'm on a standard PlayStation controller, I actually cannot do that as comfortably going to the right. So I'll actually just tack strafe into that. It's a lot quicker and more accurate. The advantage you'll have of doing a jump strafe is your body is going to be, your hitboxes, your high damage hitboxes are going to be up higher as you're coming around the corner. So if a guy's centered, he's going to hit upper leg and pelvic shots on you rather than chest and head shots. And you don't need to be doing a jump peak on a guy that's at 20 or 30 meters, but you should be doing one if possible on a guy at 10 meters or closer. It's going to throw his aim off a lot more. then I'll just go into a free form after that. So now I'm pretty warm, and I can change up my loadout if I'd like to practice with other weapons. And that's it. That is a cold warm-up. Appreciate you tagging along here. I hope you learned something. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.